Forward 30 paces, right, left at the first turning, right at the next turning, 7 paces forward, sharp left, sharp right, right
All
again,
right, I get
left
it.
at the first...
Come on, just show us. Let's see it. Now, which way are you going to go?
This way.
You know, for a so-called intelligent animal, your 3-point turns are terrible.
Compliments are unnecessary. Please follow.
Well, you don't need a computer as sophisticated as K9 to solve a maze. Even a small computer can do it, as long as it has a way of building up a mental map. Easy to get a computer to do. Let me show you another example. This microcomputer has been programmed to play a game, but it will run away. Game, of course, lots of crosses. But at the moment, the computer doesn't know that. In fact, it doesn't know anything at all about the game. Any of the rules, such as they are, or what it's supposed to do, win. This program could try to win if only it knew what that involved. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to be X, and I shall put my first X in square number 5. Let's see what the computer does. It needs to go there. Okay. There. Not bad. I shall then go up there. And it's let me win. Wasn't very hard to do. Now, in the course of playing a large number of games, it's going to learn. Eventually, it should be able to win, or at least force a draw every time. Now, Mac, how is it going to set about that learning process?
Well, with notes process, it's not very difficult, actually. And all we have to do is, it's got one great thing that you haven't got. You've got a beautiful memory, I'm sure, but that has the capability of never forgetting anything once it's been told. So every game that it plays, it remembers exactly your moves and its moves, so that if it comes across the similar situation again, it can look back and find out whether from that position it won or it lost, and take the appropriate action. If it can see a winning stream, it follows that. If it sees it's going to lose there, it does something else.
Well, in fact, this program has one other useful feature. You can arrange for it to get all its experience by playing against itself without any human intervention. So you're not condemned to playing 10,000 games of noughts and crosses against a rather taciturn computer. I'll just start it off. Well, getting computers to learn may be one step on the road to making them at least seem intelligent. But there is an enormous gap between a machine which is good at solving mazes or playing noughts and crosses, and one which has any of the qualities we normally associate with the word intelligence. Many computer scientists want no less than to create machines which think like people do. We asked a number of experts what the purpose of their work.
Hello. I think I've got this working. I think you can hear me. If not, let me know. Also, I think the background sound should be ending. Or should have already ended by now. Hopefully that's the case. I was having audio problems, as Brian pointed out. I don't know why it Spotify said it was playing, and then, but it clearly wasn't, and then it said then I got it, then I tried to get it to play, and it hung. It like wouldn't start. So I restarted that, and now it seems to be working. But it doesn't matter because I'm done needing Spotify. I don't know if you noticed, but what I added on that countdown screen is a little thing that shows you what song is currently playing in case you're interested. It's a lo-fi copyright-free stream I found on Spotify. So I want to make sure to give credit to artists where it's due, and that's I'm trying to do better at that. But if you want, I can link you to the stream. It's pretty good. It also, if you just search on Spotify for lo-fi copyright-free, it's there in case you want to add it for your own streaming purposes or whatever. Well, good morning. Morning. Good afternoon. It's Monday, September 14th, and today is the beginning of week 4 of this class. Hope you all are doing well and are settled wherever you are. If you are on campus, great. If not, great. Wherever you need to be is fine. Let's see. Okay, so a couple of you continued to message me about switching into the online section. Like if you had previously said Wednesday or Friday, but now you say actually, let's go online. So I will try to respond to you individually, but just as a general statement, I will say this is all fine. In fact, you don't even necessarily need to worry about a cohort. If you are in Wednesday or Friday, you are welcome to just on any given day decide, I'm just going to do online things today. So it doesn't necessarily matter which one of those you are, except if you're coming to class. So if you are coming to class face-to-face, you need to make sure you're on Wednesday if you're a Wednesday cohort, or Friday if you're a Friday cohort. But as far as going from one of those face-to-face cohorts to online, that's totally fine. You don't need to tell me ahead of time. I might follow up with you afterward just to see where you are and make sure you're okay, but like if you don't come. But it's not, I will not be penalizing anyone who misses that. I will be keeping track though, because I want to make sure to remember, who's there. And also it's a good way to keep in touch and kind of keep an eye on your progress through the class and make sure everything is going okay. So if I notice you're missing, like if I expect to see you and I don't see you, then that's like, oh, I wonder what happened to them. So that's the kind of thing that's all I will use that for. So there will always be an online option for every day. So if you need to take advantage of that just once or from now on, this is all fine. It's all good. Whatever you need to do, don't worry about it. But of course, feel free to reach out if you have questions or if you feel like it would be important for me to know something about your participation. So let me know how that goes. That little video, by the way, that was, I like to find random things from the 1960s and 70s, and that was from the 80s, about technology, things that were like talking about things to come. And then I like to kind of look at them from our point of view, and see kind of what came true and what predictions they got right and what were wrong. But also I think there's often some quirky ways of explaining things that I think are fun. So I like to watch those things sometimes for my own just amusement and enjoyment. So I thought I'd share them as well. So that's what's going on. As you can see, I did manage to, I made the chat bigger. So you can see the playback. Awkwardly, it still has like the chat from Friday on it, because there is a setting with this overlay where you can have it fade out a message after a certain amount of time, but I cannot get the controls for this to work still. So I can change it by hacking the CSS, but I can't get it to change the properties of it, one of which has to do with the fade out. Although I just realized, you know what, these little widgets here are generated by a URL with Git parameters, and I bet I could just change those and it would probably, adjust whatever I need to. I'll try that later. Okay, it's not important. So today, here's what we're gonna do. I have some good news and bad news. Well, I have news. You can decide if it's good or bad. The news is I don't have this thing ready. I don't have your node on artificial intelligence ready. I kept getting stuck on a couple points, and it's just not done yet. It's not any particular reason or excuse. I really failed to do something that I said I would do. So I feel bad about it. I do have some things for us to do today. It'll be a little different than I had planned, but it will get us started towards the concept of Node 2, but it's not ready yet. Maybe I'll pose this as a question, because here are the two things the main thing I was really stuck on is creating differentiated content. So creating the node, thinking of the node as a chunk of content that includes both content that you read or click a link and watch, mixing that with instruction, and mixing that with logistical who goes where kind of information. Like getting all three of those things across at once just becomes a lot visually. Like it's a lot for me organizationally and for you individually, but just like getting it across in a Python notebook perhaps is not the best way to convey all three of those things. I think two of those things at a time, perhaps. So I'm wondering, and I'll pose this as a question. You're welcome to answer on this live stream chat. What do you all think about, or do you have any experience using like Canvas modules? Because Canvas modules are built around content delivery, and I could blend those with Python notebooks. So content for the Canvas module, and then add a Python notebook for the programming parts, because that's obviously the programming, it needs to be a notebook. Like there's no equivalent at all within Canvas. But for content, the notebook is not super great at delivering content or letting me design the content in a way that's easy to follow or whatever. So I see one endorsement from Ginger Snaps of Canvas modules. I mean, they're constrained in different ways, but they are they're already there. So okay, so you like it for organization? Yeah, okay. I used them a lot more in my summer classes, which were fully asynchronous. So it kind of made sense that you could organize it conceptually around like steps and work your way through it. Okay, so I'm seeing several endorsements or at least support of modules. So I will continue building it out that way. So that was kind of the issue one, is like, is that a reasonable shift? The issue two is like, how do I organize those? But this is something I'm happy to figure out. Because like as E. Martin 2 is saying, if I think of it as a module is like a schedule with content built into it, then that's one way to do it. Another way is thinking of it as like in terms of structural units. So a module would be like node 2, and then it would be like each, like there'd be like a heading or a page within the module for each day, and then I can break it down that way. I can think of that. I mean, I can solve that problem in terms of design, but I don't know. Anyway, so sorry, I was kind of talking out loud there, but I'm okay with doing that. And I've started building that structure in Canvas just to see how that would look, and I think I will continue that. I can essentially also, I think that will also serve. You okay? Don't throw things. I'm doing a class. What do you? Okay. They're throwing trains at each other. I lost my train of thought. But anyway, I was saying that Canvas modules are also better for asynchronous content, like I found in the summer. So some of you are participating asynchronously. You can try to do it that way. It is more work for me, but I can do work once I know what I'm doing. It's just I need to kind of know what I'm doing, if that makes sense. So what I wanted to do today then is a kind of introductory exercise that I would normally do face-to-face when I'm starting a new concept. And I'm adapting this to an online way of doing this, and we'll see how it goes. But I would normally be doing this as kind of a conversation, and you can see it spread out here on my slides. I want to talk about artificial intelligence, and that's what we're talking about in this next node. And 5 or 6 different angles on artificial intelligence or questions about it. And I wanted to start by kind of gathering our general sense of what artificial intelligence is and what your sense of it is. To try and build what we do on what you already know and what you're interested in as far as artificial intelligence. I think algorithms was, I obviously chose that. I think it's a good starting point because it really forces us to deal with kind of the nuts and bolts of computing, which is what programming is. So I like that. I'm glad we started with that. But I think in some ways artificial intelligence might be a concept that's a bit easier to work with, because whereas algorithms, that's the abstract name for the kind of thing that AI is doing, AI has a lot more, I guess, concreteness to it and familiarity. It's almost like you could say artificial intelligence is like algorithms with a face or with an identity. And so I think it's a lot of the same ideas somewhat, some of the same philosophical issues and problems, but wrapped up in some extra layers because we call it artificial intelligence as opposed to an algorithm. So I'm going to talk through some things here, and I'm going to be seeking your input at a couple of crucial points here, and then depending on how that goes, I may have you creating something by the end of this thing here. So get ready to follow along. I will tell you what you need to do and when, and then we'll see how it goes. So as you see, I have a slide here. Let me see. I tried to make a new here we go, new thing, and this is the kind of thing I can't preview without. Oops, no, I want to do this. See how this looks. It's hard to see on the on OBS because it's like blocking the whole screen. So I want it to be big. So I'm watching I'm watching my preview, and it is not going full screen like I had hoped. So let me try this again real quick. Let me see if I can switch which one it has. Okay, that'll work. Artificial intelligence. So that's what we're talking about here. This is a word that has 2 parts, a term that has 2 parts. Both of these are contingent. Both of these have different context and different baggage. Artificial means it's created. Intelligence means it has brains or it has smarts. This is a term that you hear a lot. And part of what I want to talk about is the sense that we hear this term and we kind of think what we know about it. But what I want to convince you of by the end of today is that, at least certainly by the end of the node, is that most of the time when people use the word artificial intelligence, they do not mean the same thing as someone else. It's a word that means everything and nothing. It's a word that some people use to convince other people that they know what they're talking about, but in fact, it's something else. It's almost a bluff or a kind of rhetorical move as opposed to a coherent concept. There are many different things that could be said to be artificial intelligence, and many times when people call something artificial intelligence, they're overstating what it's doing, I guess, in a practical sense. But as I said a minute ago, we're essentially talking about algorithms, we're talking about machine learning, but we're giving it something else when we say it has artificial intelligence. We might say that it has subjectivity. It might be something that has some kind of algorithmically deployed point of view or way of looking at things. It might even have a sense of personhood. If we do a little Googling and searching on our AI, you may have come across, maybe you already know about like Sophia the robot who has citizenship in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Kind of interesting. You certainly have AI agents that we are used to addressing familiarly. We talk about Alexa or Siri, or in the fictional context we have Jarvis or whatever, but we think of them as having personhood, or at least having different aspects of the things that we would recognize as being part of a person, like a name, like a voice, like a body, like gender, race, and we can view an artificial person as having one or more, or sometimes all of those things. It almost becomes a question of how many of those things do you need to have in order to be really a person. And maybe that's one way to think about how close or how not close we are to artificial intelligence as a general concept. So sometimes algorithms have bodies. Sometimes AI has bodies. Sometimes they don't. Does that make a difference? Algorithms make decisions, and AI. My provocation here is to wonder if, when an algorithm has an identity or a subjectivity or a personhood, are we more likely to blame them if something goes wrong, or are we to say like the AI did it, so it's not me, it's the AI? Where do we find moments like that in our lives where we might resort to something that an AI concluded and view it as automatically more authoritative when perhaps we shouldn't? What about morality? I mean, a classic issue that comes up in self-driving cars whenever we talk about them is different versions of the trolley problem. The trolley problem is a philosophical problem where you have a train going down the track. If it continues on its track, it's going to collide with 3 people, but if you switch it to the other track, it's going to collide with 1 person. So do you flip the lever or not? So there's a philosophical thought problem proposed by that. And there are different variations on it. Then, like, what happens if the one person that you would be killing in that scenario is someone you know? Do you flip the switch or not? These are different things we can run through, conceptually. But what does a self-driving car do? Like, how do they make those decisions? And when they do make those decisions, who is morally responsible for those decisions? Is the car? Is the programmer? Is the driver? Lots of ways in which we can kind of expand several questions around that and out from that, all around this idea of intelligence within that. And what about gender, right? I mean, I mentioned this the other day on the stream, but why is it that very often when we have AI in a helper kind of role, it's a feminine AI like Alexa or Siri or Cortana? And why is it that sometimes when AI is malevolent or dangerous, it has a masculine identity? That happens because AI in fiction is not real. It comes from ideas about that kind of work that particular AI is doing in that fictional scenario, and whether that work has a gendered association with it. Certain kinds of labor, for example, are stereotypically gendered as female labor, feminine labor, for example. So these are things that come up. Okay, so this is, I've made a diagram, and diagrams can sometimes be tricky. So, I mean, if this is something that makes sense to me, and we will see if it makes sense to you, because I like the way that this diagram that I'm going to build up here piece by piece simplifies something, but sometimes, if it makes sense to me, it doesn't mean necessarily it's going to convey that sense to you. I'm interested in fiction today, fictional portrayals of AI. So when we say fiction here, when I say fiction, think of everything, video games, films, Twitter, like any context in which fiction is happening, which could be any kind of narrative context, a book, a comic book, it totally doesn't matter. Oh wait, sorry, I noticed there's chat going on. The way I'm viewing this right now, I can't see the chat, but it looks like somebody made a Portal reference, which is interesting. Hold on. I'm gonna pull that up. I have Discord on I don't have it up on both screens. It has to update itself. But I'm curious to see if you're talking about Gladys. Gladys is a really, really interesting AI character. So I hope that's what you're talking about. I mean, I hope you're talking about whatever you're interested in, but I imagine that's what you're talking about, because Gladys is really interesting, and spoiler alert, really, I mean, her background is even more tragic once you get into Portal 2, but I think she's a really fascinating way of critiquing some of these gender norms and stereotypes around AI. Again, that's a bit of a spoiler, but it draws our attention to the ways in which feminine gendered AI has particular stereotypes associated with labor roles, and she's an example of it, but a critique of that, I think. I can just barely see I can barely see your chat window. Maybe I can pull it up here too, I guess. Oh yeah, okay, great, right. So Gladys, right? So Gladys is very violent. So this is I can now see your chat. So that Gladys is female voiced and is incredibly violent. But what's fascinating about Gladys, as I'm sure you know, is how complex she is. Like how passive aggressive she is in her dialogue with Chell to begin with, and then I don't want to spoil it. I think it's a brilliant game, so I don't want to spoil any of it. I think everyone should play it. She has a body, and I think that's what sometimes goes missing if you just kind of play through the game. But the thing that you fight at the end is her body, but it actually is a female body if you look at it. It's actually a feminine AI robot body, but it's bound. It's like caught up, right? It's not. She doesn't have agency, and that's what leads to her violence. The fact that her agency has been denied and taken away, you might say, is what gives her violence. Yeah, sure, yeah, and yeah, Wheatley, there's another spoiler there. Yeah, in any case, the gender division between like helper versus evil doesn't. I mean, it's not 100%. It's just that's a tendency, and so whenever we see one or the other, we can comment on it. Well, I see, Rachel. Go ahead and finish your thought, but let me finish my diagram so I can show you what my diagram is. So fiction lets us imagine things, but fiction doesn't create its things that it imagines out of nowhere. People who write and create fiction aren't just sort of making things up. They're drawing on things that they think people will be interested in, things that they're interested in. So one of those things, of course, has been AI. And AI has showed up in lots of different versions throughout the years. And depending on how you define it, we could talk about artificial intelligences or things like artificial intelligences back into like the 18th century. But when we're talking about like a robot that has a mind and a life, it's pretty much a 20th century idea. But there's lots of different conceptions of that, and you're familiar with lots of them. And I just mentioned a few, and you all have mentioned several more. And I'm going to prompt you to come up with even more in a moment. We can think of lots of different things about those. Siobhan has an interesting question. I just saw, do you think female robots tend to be more safe or less intimidating than male robots? Robots? It can be, and I think that's part of what makes Gladys so interesting, because she comes across as non-intimidating at first, but then turns out to be pretty serious. I think that's possible, but I think, well, anyway, keep going. Let me keep my diagram going. So we have fiction wherein we imagine AI, and that's the first place that AI exists, is in fiction, right? There's no real AI at all yet. If we define it as general AI, like the idea that it's just a mind that can do different things, there is lots of so-called narrow AI, where we have very specific applications for artificial intelligence, and we have software that can do that very specific thing pretty well. But as far as a general intelligence that can take on new tasks, no, it's just not there. We're decades away from that, I think. But we still think about it. It still shows up a lot in fiction. That fiction, in turn, I'm arguing here with my diagram, as you can see with my arrow, influences the real world. People learn about AI through fiction, talk about it, create their own thing. Obviously, fiction exists in the real world too. This diagram should be more complicated. And then we do have things that exist in the real world that we call AI that are influenced by things that were first imaginary, and now that we actually have them, we start calling them AI. But you notice I put the AI in quote marks because it's AI with a line through it, because it's not exactly artificial intelligence. Or it is, but it's not. It's not C3PO. It's not GLaDOS. It's not a living being that happens to be a computer. We don't have that yet. We have things that we use that term for, but they aren't that thing yet. And so part of what I'm interested in is, why do we keep using that term if it's not exactly right? I think there are a couple reasons. To continue my diagram, real world AI influences fictional AI and becomes its own thing. And interestingly, and this line here is what I'm interested in lately. I'm actually working on something that might become a book about this topic. AI creating fiction, like writing fiction itself, is a thing that I can show you how to create, but it's something that is an interesting and emerging area of thought. So all this is to say that AI is first a fictional concept, and also I think most potently a fictional concept. I think I'm not saying it's a bad thing that it's fictional, but that we need to keep that in mind, that this fiction, let's see, I have to get my screen preview up on here. So, oh good, I can see myself. Okay, so this, I wish I could reach farther. So that sense of fictionality, it's important to think of it as fictionality, just as it is important to understand that this kind of AI also works on a fictional premise, and that's okay as long as we remember that. We often can find that AI is, again, in the real world, sort of overstated in terms of what it's doing, or what its capabilities actually are. In both cases, fiction is really important, or understanding what we mean when we create or imagine an AI kind of thing. Okay, so that's my diagram. Did that make sense? I don't know if this makes sense or not. The main thing is to keep in mind how fiction influences AI and AI influences fiction. Let's see, there's a bit of was that a question from Brian? Yeah, okay, so Brian's listed a few qualifiers. So actual AI says some sort that makes its own decisions, has a personality. I think those are two interesting things that go together often, but aren't necessarily the same thing. But an AI that has like sentience and self-preservation instincts and other things, those are often described in fictional scenarios anyway as a test to see if AI is really truly AI. But artificial AI, as you say, is a bot that plays chess or battleship, right? I mean, that is artificial intelligence. That's what people usually mean technically if they're talking about artificial intelligence. Something that can recognize images of birds, something that can play chess, as you say, something that can drive a car. The thing is that if we gave that car driving robot a chess game, it's not going to work. Or if we gave that bird identifying AI a steering wheel of a car, it's not going to do anything. It's hopefully not going to drive anywhere, but if it does, it's going to do it badly. And the point is that we don't have like a general adaptable, malleable AI that can do anything we give it. The question of personhood is a bit more philosophical, but I think we're also quite far from being able to tell whether or not that's true or not. I think that's the real question, not whether a machine might be able to have personhood, but whether we could tell if it did or not. That's the biggest challenge. Kind of a soapbox rant there, but that's what we do. Okay, so I have on this slide here several examples of AI from different things that, off the top of my head. So let me give you a quick tour of these and explain these. There's a link down here, but don't go to it yet. In fact, you can't see it as long as my head's in the way. So I will share this in Discord in a moment. So don't do anything yet. But let me just give you a quick tour. So we have Gort up there. We have HAL 9000. We have Maria, the robot. We have from the movie Metropolis. We have Cortana, other way. That way. I can't get these things right. Okay, so MCP from Tron, Alexa. And I just blanked on her name from, what's her name, from Blade Runner, and then the A computer from Star Trek, the original series. I don't know if this was actually the ship computer. It did not have nearly as much of a personality as the ship's computer in Next Generation. This is just the first one I found on Google Images, honestly. So what I would like for you to do is I'm going to give you a link to this form this is a form, this link here, and it's to this website called Airtable. Airtable is kind of like Google Spreadsheets, but more robust. And this is a form that is going to fill in a spreadsheet. So when I say go, I want you to fill out this form with an AI that you can think of. And I'd like for you to try to think of an AI that isn't here, that is something that is unlikely to be thought of by someone else. Sorry for putting that in the passive voice, but something that you think fewer people, that people might not be familiar with, because I want to get a diverse set of examples here. This is where if we were in a classroom, I'd ask you to write some things on the board and we would compare notes. But we don't have that here, but we do have forms. So I will show you the form, and then I will give you the link. So let me get OBS. Let me switch back here. Why didn't that switch over? Oh, this is frozen. Okay. My thing is. There it is. Okay. There it is. Okay. So this is what you're going to get a link to in a moment. Again, you don't need to do this yet. When I say go, you can do it. First of all, right now, as I'm talking, get your AI in mind. Think about all the things you know about it. Like, as you'll see here, a name. Does it have a name? If it does have a name, what work does it appear in? Does it have a body? And that's pretty much yes, no, or sort of. You can decide how confidently you feel it has a body. If you need to say sort of. Maybe I should have qualified that to say humanoid body. Actually, I think I will. A humanoid, because that is a distinction. Because you could say Alexa sort of has a body in the form of the Echo, so it's not a humanoid body. Do they present a gender? And that's masculine, feminine, neutral, or other. I don't know what other might be, but if you don't find it among those options there, choose other. Whatever you have. Do they have an audible voice? Yes or no? Are they good or evil? And you can say it's more if it's not obviously one or the other. For example, I would say like Gladys, for example. I think she's evil, but she's sympathetic. Like by the end of Portal 2, I understand where she's coming from, and I think that's the best kind of villain. So maybe she is evil, but I like her a lot. And then if you have an AI, if you have an image, you can attach a screenshot. You don't have to if you don't worry about it. And then also just your Discord nickname. I'm not grading this. I'm just going to see different. I just want to be able to tell if somebody accidentally submits something twice, or if you submit something really interesting, I might ask a follow-up question to you about that. Okay, so let me give you this link now, unless you've squinted at the Twitch stream and copied it, and So once I share this, you're free to fill it out. Okay, here's the form link. Please fill it out now with whatever AI you've thought of. So go to it. I'm very interested to see what you think of, because I can think of things off the top of my head, but that's only going to be the things that I think of. And I think if we all put our heads together, we'll come up with a much more interesting list. So that's my hope anyway. And as you fill this in, I'll see this on the back end of it, and I can respond if I need to. I don't care. Actually, so you can see this too as it gets filled in. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, go ahead and fill it out with whichever one you can think of. All right, so we have a couple of several things already. Great. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, so yes. Okay, great. Oh, they're coming in so fast. So we have Cleverbot, which is a real thing. So this is interesting. So it's the fictional dimension is kind of part of the premise of the tool, but it's there. Okay, so autopilots. Yeah. They are usually genderless. I'm thinking of the autopilot joke in the Airplane movie, where they do indeed have gender. So BMO from Adventure Time. Oh, great. And there are things I'm not familiar with. So I still have not actually seen the movie Her. Like, you would think that would be the kind of movie I would watch, and it is, but I just haven't yet. And interesting how many of you are saying complicated. So advertiser / scam. I'm a little curious about this one. Are you talking about, so this is Jules, are you interested in, are you talking about like the voice message you get and it's like, hello, I'm calling about your blah, 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 but you don't really have a blah, blah, blah. Like that kind of AI. I mean, calling it AI I think is generous, but I think you're right that it is in the same field. I mean, in other words, it's a message with pathways in it, right? But it's not, but yeah, it's an interesting idea. I'm gonna actually ask a follow-up on the thing. Yeah, okay, great, yeah. Bot. Yeah, I don't think there is, I mean, there probably are, like, different software probably has different name, specific names. But that's, it's a really interesting example of that kind of thing. Oh, mobile check deposit. This is great. You guys are coming up with real world examples. That was going to be sort of the next step to this, is like think of fictional ones and then find real ones that are kind of like it. But you are connecting these dots here. So Tesla Autopilot, this is interesting. I don't know if this has, I don't know much about this because I don't have a Tesla. I'm curious if it ever speaks, like if there's ever, like if you're driving your Tesla, does it ever say something to you like, hey, we should slow down, or something like that? I mean, I know that there's self-driving stuff in it, right? But it's not fully self-driving. But I'm wondering how you would address it, like, so because you said it's gender neutral, whoever wrote that one. But do you, like I would say Alexa is feminine, right? Even though you can give that software a masculine voice, its default is a feminine voice. I'm just wondering if Tesla has a voice or has any other kind of gender markers, because that's kind of the question about gender here, and that you see is that the yeah, Google time, go for it. Because this raises a question of how is gender noted, like how, like we're not talking about sexuality here, we're talking about gender, and gender as a social construct can be signified through a couple ways, and the only things I've really given you as options here are body and voice, and those are two ways in which people signify their gender. But also, whenever you're designing a system, you could use either of those to signify gender. There might be others. I don't know. There might be other questions that might be useful to ask on this survey to see what else is going on. Oh yeah, Rosie, thank you. I was thinking about Rosie and I couldn't think of her name. So yeah, Rosie from the robot, Rosie the robot. There she is from the Jetsons. Yeah. So definitely an example of like the helper, right? The assistant kind of robot. She's there to serve humans, and also she's performing a role that if a human were doing it would be considered a servant role, right? So she's not just a computer being a computer; she's a computer being a human that is serving. So pretty interesting in that sense, and definitely playing along with the ideas of the gender division of labor that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, certainly Westworld, lots of AI characters there. Homestuck. Yeah, another interesting one, mobile check deposit. It's from Sarah. Yeah, I'm. Are you talking about like the app? Like, because I do find like the one we have, it's like you take a picture of the check and then it's like, good job, or if you got it zoomed in right, or it's like, or it's something like, it does different things to kind of reject what you did, and that the fact that becomes a conversation is why I would definitely recognize that as the personified fictionalized AI. I mean, also just like in terms of machine learning, machine vision, it's a kind of, machine vision is an application of artificial intelligence, and that is literally what's happening whenever you take a picture of a check and it processes it. That is literally what we talk about as AI. But I think also it also becomes that other thing too, where we personify it. I would say you can talk to it. Interesting. So it's like Alexa, but on the listening side without the. I mean, because if you say something, I don't know if Alexa works that way, but you can say pretty general things to Alexa, like turn yourself down, and she'll turn down, or, but she doesn't usually say okay. She'll usually just turn herself down. Ours is not hooked up into the thermostat or anything. So if I did say, Alexa, I am cold, I don't know what she would do. She would probably say, too bad. Or she would probably say, download this other thing. Yeah, and things like autofocus. Like autofocus is another application of machine vision. Like that's a very, familiar thing that we let computers do, but it is a kind of machine vision application of artificial intelligence. Yeah, so lots of really interesting ones. So let me see. Time is getting away from us. I was going to direct you all to do something, but I'm worried we don't have time. My life as a teenage robot? What is that? I don't know this one, Jenny. Or who's it, E. Martin too? I don't know my life as a teenage robot. Oh yeah, okay. Looks like a cartoon show. I don't know what channel that is. Oh, Nickelodeon, yeah. So it's a Nickelodeon cartoon, looks like. Is it? Yeah. I'm trying to think, what was that old Disney movie? There's an old Disney movie. I'm Googling it on my other screen, so you don't see me Google this because, yes, that's what I was thinking of. The computer wore tennis shoes. This is what I was thinking of. I remember watching this movie. So, 1969. Wow. And it's been remade, I assume. But this is, yeah, it is a classic. So this stars Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell would later be sort of the action hero guy. Was for a time the standard teenage boy in a whole bunch of Disney Channel movies or Disneyland movies, I guess, at that point. And so in this one, he is a computer. I don't remember the premise exactly, like how he ends up becoming a computer, but as you can see here, it's got this computery font. That font I can tell you a lot about, actually, because I did a chapter of my dissertation on it, but I'm not going to talk about it now. But the point is, there's this idea of he becomes a robot or a computer for some reason. Yeah. So, and then Smart House. I'm curious about the Smart House idea too, because as Ginger Snaps is pointing out here, I mean, there is, I'm pretty sure, a TV show called Smart House. There is also the concept of having a smart house, which is something that people do and people have. I'm curious if any of you have that. I mean, I don't have anything. We have several Alexas because they're useful for entertainment, but and for audiobooks, we encourage that from our kids, obviously. But we don't have it hooked into anything else. Although you can hook in any smart appliance that you have can be controlled by your Alexa. We don't have any smart appliances; they're all just dumb. But that's how I like it. When I got a new dishwasher, it has an Ethernet port at our old house, and I was like, why does this have an Ethernet port? Why would I? And it turns out that's how you can connect the Wi-Fi dongle, so you can put it on your network, so you can control it from Alexa. But I don't know, I don't know what I would need to know from my dishwasher. It's either on or it's not, and I can tell it just by being there. And I wouldn't want to start it if I was not home. It just seems like it's solving a problem that doesn't exist. Okay, yeah, interesting. So, and Samantha Sedgwick is mentioning There Will Come Soft Rains. This is a short story. That's actually one of the things that we're going to be looking at in not this module, but the next one. So kind of spoiler there, but the idea of connected technology is something that comes up in the next module after we get into this. But as you can see, there's a lot of continuity among these things. Okay, so well, I guess I'm kind of I've gotten excited about the things that you all are suggesting, and so I'm low on time, but I have a little bit of time, but it's probably not enough time. What I was going to do is okay, thanks. What I was going to do is, and I will just give you this as an optional activity to do for right now. Totally optional. If you have time, feel like if you feel like you want to do it, go ahead. If not, it's okay. I will guide anyone who wants to do this through this later on as part of the module work, which is I am interested in thinking about one or more of these. Oh, that's a really inappropriate picture there. So one or more of these bots. Where is it? I lost my sheet. There it is. Thinking about these bots and then trying to flesh out their personality and thinking about the ways that personality can be performed online. We have lots of different websites where we create a profile and where we create a version of ourselves. If you remember, one of the ideas from that short story of Soft Truth is that different characters, like different websites that create a profile of us, in effect are imagining like further doppelgangers of us based on whatever we give it as part of that profile. So I was just kind of curious, like what would happen if we tried to make let's say like a dating app profile for a Tesla autopilot, or for Rosie the robot, or for Pandora, or for Wally, or or for Cleverbot. I looked into it, and there are no like free and safe, I guess, dating apps. I did come across something that was pretty amusing. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to find it without coming across something else. But I guess Kentucky Fried Chicken or a KFC, they made a fake dating, like a dating sim game where you could date Colonel Sanders. So if that's interesting to you, then go check that out. But anyway, I think it would be useful to try to go through this process at least a little bit. But my idea was, instead of that, to just create a Twitter account for one or more of these artificial intelligence beings, and then imagine how they might interact with each other. Like, based on the things that we know here that you've given just the basics of, plus whatever else we may know about them, what would their interests be? What would their dislikes be? What kind of thing would they be looking for in a partner? Right? I mean, those are things that we can use to start fleshing out the sense of subjectivity and personhood that all of these fictional scenarios, whether in fiction or as part of our interaction, are imagining. They're all asking us to imagine these things as having that bigger identity. So what would it be like to actually create that? So I don't know if you've made a Twitter account before. I don't know if you've made a fake Twitter account before, but it is doable. This is, let me see, which one is this? This is my real one. So I'm going to log out and show you a couple of things. And you don't have to do this now. J.K. Rowling is not dead. Okay, good. Why would that even be trending? Okay, so let's see. Come on, let me log out, please. So signing up for a Twitter account is pretty quick. Let's see. I'm going to do. I can probably do one right now, and you all can just watch. And if you want to follow along and do this, you certainly can. So let me do one for. I want to do one for mobile check deposit. All right. So that's going to be my. I'm creating like a persona around a mobile check depositing AI. So let's do mobile. No, I gotta sign up here. Mobile check deposit door. Okay, so let me use email instead. You might remember I've showed you all the infinite Gmail trick, I believe. Mobile check. Okay, date of birth. One thing you need to make sure of when you pick this is, I mean, you can pick a random date, but make sure that it's old enough to be on Twitter. I have had people do this and they accidentally pick like today's date, and Twitter's like, oh no, you're too young. And then it locks your account out. So we'll say, check deposit, automatic check depositing software actually was created in 1955. So that's what I'm going to say, or thereabouts. Okay, track where you see, nope. Check my account, enable check depositor, yep, I'm good, I'm good. Wait, how do I get back here? Okay, sign up. Great, okay, so this is where that fake Gmail address is important because it sent this email, it sent this code to my Gmail, and I'm not going to pull up my Gmail on screen, but I should get it on my phone. Okay. Now I need a password. Okay, so there we go. And now it's going to ask me several things to help me create this persona for this. I'm going to skip this bio. Do not, by the way, upload your contacts. No reason to do that. Okay, now what would this mobile check depositor be interested in? What kind of music? And feel free to, yeah, I mean, you can chime in. I know I need to wrap it up here, but if you can think of anything, let's see. Photography. I think electronic music makes sense. Business and finance, definitely. Technology, sports. We're going to say track and field. Okay. Suggestions to follow. Elon Musk? No. I don't want to follow Elon Musk, even with my fake account. A lot of these people are showing up twice. How is that? So like Kaylee, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to follow anybody right now. And definitely don't enable notifications. And now we have a fake Twitter account. So what are we going to do with this? We're going to do something with it later. But for now, just the process of creating an account is all I wanted to show you and all I wanted to invite you to do. If we had time, I would have walked you through doing it in class together. But that's pretty quick demo of it. And I will continue to do something with this fake account probably as I demonstrate some things later on about Twitter. Okay, so just a reminder, some of you I will see on Wednesday, some of you I will see on Friday, some of you I will not see except online, and that's fine. That's how this goes. If you're not sure about where you need to be or if you need to be somewhere, then feel free to check with me. It's okay. I've given this information to you multiple ways, but it's okay to check. But in Discord anyway, you should be, if you are in the Section 1 Wednesday cohort, then I will be looking for you on Wednesday. If not, then I will not expect to see you. In fact, please don't come if you're not in Section 1 Wednesday in that cohort. So you can check your role in Discord or whichever group you're in Canvas if you're not sure. Again, if you're not sure, just check HCC 327. So yes, there will be announcements or other things in Canvas, Brian. So if you're not in Section 1 Wednesday, then check your Canvas announcements. I will give you instructions, and that will be something that you work through together or on your own, and then I will just check in with you later. I won't be able to do that live. I won't be able to do both at the same time. So you will essentially have an asynchronous experience as far as me, but you might be coordinating or chatting with each other. So that'll be something that I need to write up some instructions for, but bear with me and I will get that to you. But yeah, that'll be the case any other Wednesday or Friday, is that if you're not face-to-face, you will have instructions and you'll be fine. And I will check in later. But otherwise, I will see some of you face-to-face. A couple notes about 327. As you arrive, find a spot. I think there are going to be the cleaning wipes near the door, so grab one of those. Find a seat, I guess, as far away from the door as you can so that people can kind of fill in as they come in. And then that'll be your seat for the semester. So that, choose wisely, I guess. Choose a seat that you like or that you don't mind sitting in again. And that will be essentially your assigned seat de facto. Okay, so that's I guess all I need to say, except you'll have to again apologize for not having the node stuff ready, but I'm going to put that together in Canvas. So hopefully that'll make it easier for me to structure the content as well as make it visually clear. So Okay, well, thanks for all the ideas about AI. It's a good conversation. It would have been nice to have the conversation in person, but I think that was pretty good the way that worked that way too. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions, let me know, especially if you have any questions about where you need to be, if at all. Okay, see you later. Bye.